The arena beneath Station Kilos 9 reeked of sweat, ozone, and barely contained violence. Lucas pressed himself against the corrugated metal wall, his human frame dwarfed by the assembled crowd of alien spectators. Towering Krillians with their chitinous plates, serpentine Vishari coiled in the upper galleries, and dozens of other species he couldn't name, all here for the fights. "You shouldn't be here," came a voice beside him. Lucas turned to find Susan leaning against the same wall, her arms crossed, dark eyes scanning the crowd with practiced ease. She wore the same maintenance crew jumpsuit as him, but hers was rolled up at the sleeves, revealing forearms marked with old scars. "Neither should you," he replied. Susan's lip quirked. "Difference is I know what I'm doing." Below them, in the circular pit that served as the arena, a Krillian warrior was dismantling his opponent, a four-armed Thessian mercenary who'd made the mistake of accepting the challenge. The crowd roared as the Krillian's massive fist connected with a sickening crunch. Lucas winced. Brutal. That's the point. Susan's gaze hadn't left the arena. This is where station disputes get settled, where the strong prove themselves, where humans, she paused, don't belong. Then why are you here? Research. Before Lucas could question that cryptic answer, a commotion erupted near the pit's entrance. A massive figure pushed through the crowd, a Krillian even larger than the one in the arena, his carapace decorated with battle markings that told of countless victories. "Grexthor," Susan murmured. "Regional champion." Grexthor descended into the pit, and the current victor immediately backed away, showing deference. The champion's mandibles clicked in what Lucas had learned was Krillian laughter. When Grexthor spoke, his voice boomed through the arena's acoustic design. "I grow weary of weak opponents," he announced in heavily accented standard. 7 cycles I have held this pit. 7 cycles, no worthy challenge." His segmented eyes scanned the crowd. "Perhaps I should seek sport elsewhere, perhaps." Among the humans, the crowd erupted in clicking, hissing, and guttural laughter. Humans were known across the station as the soft species, the engineers and technicians, the diplomats and merchants. Clever perhaps, but physically unremarkable. Humans cannot brawl. Grexthor continued, his mandibles spread wide. "They break too easily. I have seen them flinch at raised voices." "I have, then don't flinch." The arena fell silent. Lucas's heart stopped as he realized the voice had come from beside him. Susan was already moving, pushing through the crowd toward the pit entrance. "Susan, no." Lucas grabbed her arm, but she shrugged him off with surprising strength. "Stay there, Lucas, watch." She dropped into the arena with casual grace, landing in a crouch before rising to her full height. Compared to Grexthor's 3-meter frame, she looked absurdly small. The champion tilted his massive head, studying her. "A human female accepts my challenge." His mandibles clicked rapidly, definitely laughter now. "I will try not to kill you too quickly." Susan rolled her shoulders, settling into a stance Lucas didn't recognize. "You talk too much," Grexthor charged. To Lucas it seemed impossible that Susan could survive the next 3 seconds. The Krillian's mass alone should have crushed her. His fist came down like a piston, fast enough to blur. Susan wasn't there. She'd slipped inside his guard, and her elbow crashed into the joint where his carapace segments met. The impact sounded like a gunshot. Grexthor's mandibles spread wide in pain, but Susan was already moving. She drove her knee into another joint, then spun away as his other arm swept toward her. The crowd's silence broke into confused noise. "Impossible," someone hissed nearby. "Humans don't move like that, but Susan did." She flowed around Grexthor's attacks like water, and every counterstrike targeted the weak points in his armored body. The champion's roars of rage became tinged with frustration. He was stronger, larger, more heavily armored, and none of it mattered. Lucas watched in amazement as Susan ducked under a wild haymaker and drove her fist into Grexthor's knee joint. The champion stumbled. She followed up with a spinning kick to his mandibles that sent him reeling backward. "You said humans can't brawl," Susan said, her breathing barely elevated. "You were half right." Grexthor steadied himself, blue blood seeping from cracks in his carapace. "What are you?" "Former Marine. Earth Special Operations." She circled him slowly. "See, you assumed human meant weak. Classic mistake. We're not the strongest species, true? We don't have your armor, your size, your natural weapons." Her eyes hardened. "But we've been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've had to get creative." The champion charged again, this time more cautiously. Susan met him head-on, and what followed was a masterclass in combat technique. She used his strength against him, redirected his momentum, exploited every vulnerability. Her strikes were precise, economical, devastating. Grexthor landed a hit. His massive fist clipped her shoulder and sent her sliding across the arena floor. The crowd gasped. Susan rose slowly, rotating her shoulder, and smiled. Good. I was worried this would be boring. Something changed in her stance. She wasn't defending anymore. She attacked, a whirlwind of strikes that drove the champion backward. Her fist cracked his chest plate. Her heel shattered one of his mandibles. When he tried to grapple her, she twisted in his grip and brought her elbow down on his arm joint with such force that the limb went limp. Grexthor fell to one knee. Yield, Susan said quietly. I don't want to cripple you. The champion's remaining mandible quivered. In his culture, defeat was shame. But in his eyes, Lucas saw something else, respect. Yield. The arena exploded, not with mockery, but with a roar of approval. Susan helped Grexthor to his feet, and the massive warrior inclined his head to her. I was wrong, he rumbled. Humans can brawl. Susan climbed out of the pit to where Lucas stood, mouth still hanging open. She grabbed his collar and pulled him away from the crowd, through the access tunnels until they reached a quiet maintenance corridor. Are you insane? Lucas finally managed. You could have been killed. Could have been. She wiped blue blood from her knuckles. Wasn't. Why? Why risk it? Susan met his eyes. Because every species on this station thinks we're soft. Thinks we're only good for fixing their machines and balancing their books. And maybe most humans are better suited for that. But we're still human. She flexed her bruised hand. We're persistence hunters who conquered our entire planet. We've survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We walked on our moon before we had proper computers. So this was about pride? This was about respect. Susan started walking toward their quarters. Tomorrow, when you're doing your maintenance rounds, you'll see the difference. They won't dismiss you as easily. Won't assume you'll break. Lucas followed, his mind still reeling. Where did you really learn to fight like that? Told you. Marine Corps. Force Recon. 3 tours in the belt conflicts before I mustered out. She glanced back at him. Why do you think a decorated combat veteran is working maintenance on a backwater station? I never thought about it. Most people don't. They see the uniform, not the person. See human, not the individual. She stopped at the intersection where their paths diverged. Now they'll think twice. And maybe next time a human gets in trouble in the lower decks, the others will remember tonight. Lucas watched her disappear down the corridor, then made his way to his own quarters. Through the station's thin walls, he could hear the news spreading. Whispered conversations in a dozen languages, all talking about the human who'd beaten Grexthor in single combat. By morning, the story would reach every deck, every sector. The soft species, the clever mechanics, had proven they could fight. Susan had said humans can't brawl. She'd been wrong on purpose, Lucas realized, because sometimes the best way to change a lie into truth was to prove everyone wrong so spectacularly that the lie could never be told again. He smiled. Tomorrow, when he walked through the station, he'd walk a little taller, not because he could fight like Susan, he couldn't, but because she'd reminded everyone, alien and human alike, of a fundamental truth. Humans were survivors, and survivors, by definition, didn't break easily. In the arena below, they were already preparing for tomorrow's fights. But the real victory had already been won, and its echoes would resonate through Station Kelos 9 for years to come.